on a rain-soft Monday morning in New York City. The glass tower of Carter Holdings rose through a curtain of autumn mist, its lobby humming with the quiet tension of a company that never truly slept. Every employee who passed through the revolving doors that day noticed something unusual near the service elevator: a new cleaning cart with a slightly rusted wheel, and beside it, a man in a faded gray uniform who kept his head down and his eyes fixed on the floor he was mopping. Nobody in that building, not the executives sipping their lattes, nor the interns rushing to their desks, had any reason to suspect that the quiet man pushing the cart was Ethan Carter, the sole heir to a fortune worth tens of billions of dollars. He had chosen, on that particular morning, to disappear inside his own company, to become invisible in the very halls his family had built. Because he wanted one thing that his money had never been able to buy him: someone who could look at him and see a man instead of a name. Only one woman in that entire building would ever look closely enough to notice. Long before she learned the truth that was hiding beneath his uniform, Carter Holdings had been built from nothing more than a small architectural firm 4 decades earlier, back when Victoria Carter was a young woman with more ambition than capital, and a stubborn belief that good design could change how people lived. By the time her son Ethan turned 38, that firm had transformed into an empire spanning real estate, technology, and global finance. Its headquarters, a 52-story monument of steel and glass in the heart of Manhattan, Victoria, now 62, still walked those halls every week with the same sharp eyes that had built the company. Though age had softened her voice into something warmer, something that carried the weight of a mother who wanted, more than any merger or acquisition, to see her only son find real happiness. She had watched him endure a difficult divorce years earlier, one that left him guarded and quietly exhausted by the endless parade of women who seemed to fall in love with his last name before they ever learned his first. Victoria had not stopped trying to help him, even when her methods frustrated him more than they ever comforted him. She arranged dinners disguised as business meetings, introduced him to daughters of old family friends, and each time, Ethan sat through the evening with the same polite, distant smile, already certain of how it would end. There was the woman who asked about his stock portfolio before she asked his age, the one who complimented his watch 3 times before dessert arrived, and the one who cried when she learned he wanted to keep their relationship private, insisting that a man like him should want everyone to know. After the 4th such dinner in a single month, Ethan finally sat his mother down in her office overlooking Central Park and told her, in a voice quieter than she expected, that he was done pretending these arrangements might lead anywhere real. He told her plainly that if a woman only loved the name Carter, then she had never loved him at all, only the shadow his name cast over a room. Victoria listened without interrupting, watching her son's face carry an exhaustion that money had never been able to soften. And for the first time in years, she did not offer another introduction or another dinner. Instead, she proposed something far stranger, an experiment born from her own desperation to see him happy before she grew too old to witness it. She suggested that Ethan disappear entirely, that he step out of his own life and into the uniform of an ordinary worker, somewhere close enough for her to watch, but far enough from his usual world that no one would recognize the heir hiding inside the cleaner. The conditions she set were simple but absolute, and she made him repeat them back to her before she agreed to help him arrange it. He would work as a member of the custodial staff at Carter Holdings for 3 full months, reporting each morning like any other employee, riding the same crowded elevators, eating the same vending machine sandwiches most people barely tolerated. No one within the company, aside from Victoria herself and 2 trusted human resources officials sworn to secrecy, would know his true identity during that time. He would not use his wealth to make his own life easier in any way. Not a private car home, not a better apartment, not even a warmer coat if the weather turned cold, because the entire purpose of the experiment was to strip away every advantage his birth had given him. Victoria promised to watch quietly from a distance, never interfering, never revealing herself unless something dangerous demanded it. Content, instead, to observe which of her employees treated the newest, lowest paid worker with genuine decency. She believed, with the certainty of a woman who had spent 40 years reading people before she ever read balance sheets. That true character revealed itself most clearly in how someone treated a person who could offer them nothing in return. Ethan agreed to the terms with more resolve than she had seen in him in years, and within a week, the arrangements had been made, a false employment record created, a modest uniform ordered, an old cleaning cart with a slightly rusted wheel wheeled quietly into the service elevator on the very first morning. On that Monday, dressed in gray cotton that felt strange against skin more accustomed to tailored wool, Ethan Carter walked through the doors of his own empire as a stranger, carrying nothing but a mop, a name tag that read only his first name, and a quiet hope that somewhere inside those 52 floors, someone might finally see him clearly. The first days on the job taught Ethan more about his own company than a decade of board meetings ever had. Most employees walked past him without a glance. The way people walk past furniture, their eyes sliding over his uniform as though it made him invisible rather than simply present. Ryan Cole, an ambitious sales director who had spent years cultivating Victoria's favor in hopes of climbing higher within the company, seemed to take a particular pleasure in mocking the new custodian, making sharp comments about slow mopping or a bin left unemptied a few minutes too long. Sophia Grant, the deputy director of communications, was worse in her own quiet way. Referring to him within earshot as the old man with the mop, a phrase she used so casually, it was clear she never imagined he might understand every word. Amid that quiet cruelty, only one person in the entire building treated Ethan the same way she treated everyone else, with a warmth that asked for nothing in return. Emma Brooks, the head of the interior design department, greeted him every morning with an easy good morning that never wavered whether he was carrying a mop or standing near the elevator doing nothing at all. She brought him coffee some mornings without being asked, simply because she noticed the machine near the design floor made a better cup than the one downstairs, and she thanked him sincerely every single time he cleared away the debris after her team's late meetings. Ethan found himself, against every expectation he had walked in with, beginning to look forward to those small exchanges more than he looked forward to almost anything else in his old life of boardrooms and quarterly earnings calls. One afternoon, while rushing between meetings, Emma dropped a heavy folder of blueprints across the hallway floor, sheets of technical drawings scattering like leaves across the marble. Ethan set down his cart, a small but significant error in the structural specifications that could have caused serious problems once construction began. He mentioned it quietly, almost apologetically, pointing to the exact line where the numbers did not align with what the design required. Emma stared at him for a long moment, genuinely startled, and asked how on earth a member of the cleaning staff had noticed something her own engineers had missed. Ethan only offered a small, careful smile, and said that he liked to read, that he had picked up a few things here and there from books, an answer vague enough to satisfy her curiosity without revealing the truth simmering just beneath it. That small moment planted something between them that neither fully understood yet, a flicker of curiosity on Emma's part, and a quiet ache of recognition on Ethan's, the first sign in years that someone was noticing him for his mind rather than his money. In the weeks that followed, that flicker began to grow into something steadier, something that revealed itself in the smallest, most ordinary moments of an otherwise unremarkable office routine. Emma began facing real pressure at work, as Ryan tried repeatedly to seize control of a major renovation project her department had spent months developing, undermining her in meetings and quietly rewriting credit for her ideas whenever he found the opportunity. Ethan watched all of this unfold from the corners of the room where no one thought to look, and slowly, carefully, he began to help her without ever letting her know it was him. When the office printer jammed 20 minutes before an important client presentation, it was Ethan who appeared with a small toolkit borrowed from building maintenance and fixed it in silence before slipping away. When the projector in the main conference room failed during another critical pitch, he was the one who traced the loose cable behind the wall panel and reconnected it just in time, disappearing into the hallway before anyone thought to ask who had solved the problem. When Emma stayed late one night struggling to complete a complicated financial breakdown for a proposal, unfamiliar with certain accounting terms her own team had gotten wrong, she found a folder left quietly on her desk the next morning with the errors corrected and a short, unsigned note suggesting a cleaner way to present the figures. She never learned who had left it, though she noticed, with a small private smile, that the handwriting looked strangely familiar to the careful lettering on the daily cleaning logs near the supply closet. As the days passed, Emma began to trust him in a way she rarely trusted anyone new. And the two of them fell into a quiet habit of talking near the end of each shift, when the office had emptied out and the building felt like it belonged only to them. She learned that he understood business with a depth that seemed impossible for someone in his position. That he could discuss architecture with the fluency of someone who had studied it for years. That he even understood fine art in ways that surprised her during a passing conversation about a painting hanging in the lobby. Each time she pressed him gently about where he had learned so much, Ethan gave the same modest answer, that he simply liked to read, deflecting her curiosity with a quiet humility that only made her admire him more, though she could never quite explain why. It was Emma who finally suggested, almost on impulse, that they get dinner together after one particularly long evening, when both of them had stayed far past closing time. She said it without hesitation, without the faintest concern that he was, by every visible measure, simply a member of the cleaning staff, because to her, that distinction had never mattered in the first place. They ended up eating from a small food cart parked near the office, sharing a paper tray of food, balanced on a low stone wall, and later walking slowly through a light rain that neither of them seemed eager to escape. They talked about their families, about the small disappointments and quiet joys of ordinary life, and Ethan found himself experiencing a kind of peace he had not felt in years. A peace that had nothing to do with the size of his bank account and everything to do with the woman walking quietly beside him. At one point in their conversation, Emma grew reflective, her voice softening as she admitted that she had once loved a man of considerable wealth, only to discover that everything he loved was ultimately himself, that his affection had never truly extended beyond his own reflection. She told Ethan she had learned, painfully, that money could buy comfort, but never character, and that she would rather spend her life with someone honest and ordinary than with someone rich and hollow. Ethan said nothing for a long moment, the rain falling quietly around them, because he understood in that instant that Emma had just described, without knowing it, exactly the kind of woman he had spent his entire adult life searching for and never finding. He realized, with a certainty that unsettled him, that the walls he had built around his heart, after years of being loved for his fortune rather than himself, were beginning, slowly and without his permission, to come down. Just as their connection deepened, the fragile secret Ethan had built around himself nearly collapsed without warning. Victoria arrived at the Carter Holdings offices unannounced one afternoon, and the entire building seemed to hold its breath the moment her car pulled up outside, every executive on the top floors straightening their posture,